Welcome to Moon Monkey. On this episode, we'll be talking about the new Marvel movie Doctor Strange, directed by Scott Derrickson.
Thank you. So we start off where we meet Dr. Stephen Strange, the arrogant doctor, doesn't care about anyone or anything. You know, he's just all about his job. That's what he cares about. And then he takes his very expensive car out for a drive to some kind of dinner. I think he's going to some kind of speaking event, and he has a car crash, and really quite bad car crash.
Yeah,
and loses the use of his hands.
I mean, he's pretty lucky to walk away from that, to be honest.
Yeah, all in all, pretty lucky, or unlucky anyway, because he loses the use of his hands for his job, and his job's really all he cares about because he's pretty self-centered, really.
Yeah, he's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
Highly respected neurosurgeon, a highly wealthy neurosurgeon. I don't know what he's been paid, but considering where his penthouse apartment.
Well, he picks and chooses. He picks and chooses everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's getting a phone call, which we think is a reference to
War Machine.
Don Cheadle and War Machine.
Yeah.
Because there's a moment where he's on the phone to his secretary or his assistant, and he's like, "What do you got for me?" And he's like, "Oh, there's an army colonel or something that's crashed an experimental armor." And he's like, "Nah, it doesn't sound like fun. We're not doing that." And then it crashes off the side of the.
Yeah, he's a doctor, but he gets to pick and choose what work he does. Even though at the beginning he does seem to be working in a hospital, so I'm not sure how that works. He seems to be able to choose when he comes in and who he treats.
Well, maybe that's just where he's working.
Down.
He's working, but he's in the private area.
Yeah,
for the expensive people
in the private sector. Well, in America, I think it's almost all the private sector, isn't it? It was directed by Scott Derrickson, who also did the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, starring Keanu Reeves. That's the only other thing that I've seen that he's done, but I know he has done other horror films. He did The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister 2. So not too many films.
Yeah.
The Day the Earth Stood Still wasn't very well received either. So it's not like he's a really big name director. Yeah. But obviously Doctor Strange is not one of Marvel's tentpole franchises. It's not one of the big money makers. Which is why it's been released in October.
It maybe gives some people a tentpole. I don't know.
Possibly. Benedict Cumberbatch might. But yeah, that's why it's not been released as the summer blockbuster, like the Avengers, even Captain America and Iron Man. They're still their big name brands. Doctor Strange is not as well known.
No, definitely not. They tend to be taking a bit more of a chances though, Marvel, with Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange. Yeah. Something a bit different that you didn't think, really years ago you never thought, oh, you'll see a Doctor Strange movie. Yeah. Because I didn't really think you'd see a Doctor Strange movie.
Well, I hadn't really heard of the character.
No, I'm not. Yeah, exactly. He's more you'll see him pop up in other comics.
Yeah.
I've never really went and I'm going to read
there was a moment in the Civil War comic, but it wasn't included in the movie, where they talk about Doctor Strange and they just cut away to him. Yeah. Generally, he's always dealing with supernatural threats. Yeah. That's the idea of him. So
they usually just visit him.
Yeah, he's not. The door. Doesn't get involved too much with the Avengers and what they're doing. It was written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, who I know is an author of fantasy novels. And I thought the script was pretty workmanlike. I did say that it was kind of competent, which sounds like damning with faint praise. But basically, it does everything that you expect it to do. I don't think it's necessarily an insult. It's like they didn't drop the ball. There was nothing in it that's that makes no sense or is terrible. But it's nothing happens that's really too surprising. It follows the same pattern as most origin stories.
I don't know. I thought it was more of a different take in a way on an origin story. But I know what you're saying. At the same time, it's well written. I think there's a lot of funny bits in it. Although I didn't think a lot of people were getting the jokes in the time we saw it anyway. But I thought it was very amusing.
I think we've seen so many superhero things that there's obviously they're going to repeat themselves to some extent. So you have kind of a character who's arrogant, a little bit like Iron Man. He goes through a tragedy. Yeah. And then through that tragedy, he then gains his powers, and then they set up a final act where they've got to save the world from evil. But yeah, like you say, there was a lot of humor in there, and there were a lot of nice references, which I liked.
I felt like this was more than just it's Tony Stark again, but I think a lot of that had to do with the visuals of the movie. Yeah, which again I was a bit apprehensive about going to see this because I was like, it's just going to be like Iron Man with Inception-like visuals. Yeah, but I really enjoyed that. I mean, you could sit and watch him tumbling down various various different dimensions for a decent amount of time and be entertained.
Yeah, I liked that it was something different, that it was more magic and mysticism rather than the usual, which is more technological, like Iron Man, I suppose, or I don't know what you would say for like Hulk or Spider-Man. Like they have some ability internally that makes them something different.
It's a different thing with the mysticism and the magic.
It's kind of his internal strength, but he uses it. Like, he uses the magic. He's not actually changed, but he's just seen how he can become a better person, which is that's a nice message to see in a film. But yeah, I've heard it like so many films that you could say that this is similar to. Inception is one that will be brought up a lot just because of the visuals of the folding buildings.
It's the only thing I can think of that
Batman Begins, people have said, because he does martial arts training in a monastery and has kind of the leader. That's one thing, like, we might talk about the plot later on, in terms of the villains and things. I thought maybe a more Batman Begins style, like the Master turning out to be the villain would have been more interesting than what they did. But maybe good. But then I've already seen that in Batman Begins.
Yeah. So. And you'd just be like, you'd be sitting here right now going annoyed because they've just done Batman Begins.
Yeah, so they have done Batman Begins again. So yeah, do you want to go through the cast? We've got Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange.
Who people probably know Sherlock, and is more known, at least in the UK, for doing like Sherlock and Shakespeare and stuff. Yeah, that's what I associate him with. Is this classically trained?
Yeah, but he's been in quite a number of movies. Yeah. Like he's a big star recently.
This is probably like for a lot of, it'll break him into entirely new audience. So
yeah, I guess
like so. A Marvel movie as the main.
Yeah, he's maybe more
protagonist though.
Maybe more well known in Britain.
Yeah.
I mean, he played Alan Turing in The Imitation Game.
Yeah, I think he's definitely more well known in the UK.
And Sherlock's pretty big all over the
and
world.
He's done like Star Trek and stuff too. Like,
yeah, that's true.
But I think this is definitely going to make him even bigger.
Yeah, he seemed like he did a really good job with this character
and his accent.
Yeah, and a good job with the accent.
I was sceptical about the accent, but I did like it.
Like you say, it's kind of a Tony Stark type character because he's very rich and arrogant, and he has kind of the one-liners and quips, and got like the smart mouth when people say stuff and the comebacks. But yeah, he did manage to get the kind of tragedy. It's an interesting character, I felt, because he's such like an arrogant person at the beginning that you really don't think you would feel sorry for him, but then when he has his accident, you kind of do feel, oh, that's really bad. Even though he treats people terribly, like the girl that comes to like speak to him, he treats everyone terribly, but you're still kind of like,
he's completely horrible to Christine.
But you're still feeling a little bit like, oh, I still kind of see why he would be like that. If your hands had been ruined, and that was kind of your whole life.
Oh, but before that, he was still a bit.
So yeah, we had Christine Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams, plays his love interest. Not in the film too much, but did a good job. She's not like the one thing in it. She's not used as like, I want to say bait. That's the wrong word. She's not used like Mary Jane in Spider-Man. Like she's in trouble and she needs to be rescued. Yeah. So that's one thing, and I think
it is more like she loves him and he's just really arrogant and up his own arse and isn't really interested.
Yeah, a new kind of take on that, on the kind of love interest. Well, I suppose you can't even really call her a love interest because it's like they've had something before and they're just working together now, colleagues. Chiwetel Ejiofor plays Mordo, who's like a fellow trainee at this refuge in Kathmandu where he's learning the ancient arts. Yeah. He's obviously a more advanced student. Yeah. But he did a great job, I thought, of the film. And he has like there are a lot of somewhat flat characters I felt in the film, but he has a real kind of kernel to his character, which is that he's like, he believes in the rules and the sticking to the rules and the law.
I'd say they don't go too in depth with anyone though. Really. It's really just, oh look, there's Doctor Strange, let's have a bit about what's wrong with him.
But he was the one character who actually stood for something. Like he had some principles, and you felt like, oh, that's going to be true. It turns out later on, spoiler alert, it turns out that it does become a problem.
Yeah.
But like when they set him up, it's like, oh, he actually has something that might cause a problem here. Tilda Swinton, who plays the Ancient One, who trains Stephen Strange and shows him the mystic arts.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, with Tilda Swinton's character, they hint at, oh, she's doing something she shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Like drawing power from somewhere. We've already said spoilers, so it's fine.
Yeah.
She's drawing power from somewhere, but they never really fully explained to me why that's so terrible.
Well, I think the idea is...
Apart from Mordo, who's obviously against anything that isn't by the book.
Yeah.
Even though what she's doing is actually in a book. So.
I think the idea is, like, basically the setup for the final part of the film. So if you haven't seen it, this will be major spoilers. So the final part of the film, they set up Dormammu, who is the mega evil, universe-sized, basically the embodiment of evil, I thought. Yeah. And his goal is to take over every universe and every planet and absorb it into his evil. It kind of reminded me of the Fifth Element. Remember, there was like the ultimate evil, so it basically just spreads throughout the universe. So I think the idea of the Ancient One was, because she's using Dormammu's power, she's essentially making him stronger to make herself stronger. So the idea is, like, you don't ever want to use the evil force because it makes it more powerful. But it also gives her superpower and extended life, which is why she's doing it. Yeah, so that's kind of prohibited. But she does it because sometimes you have to break the rules. Again, like, I can't comment on the comic book, so I don't know if any of these characters, they go really in depth in the comic books, or if that's just their character, that's who they are. But yeah, like you say, in the films, she pretty much is like the wise mentor, but her performance was really good. And the scene she had with Benedict Cumberbatch when they're standing like outside was quite touching. Yeah,
that was a good one. Mads Mikkelsen, he was there.
Yeah,
I like Mads Mikkelsen. I feel like generally you look for a bad guy and people just seem to think, oh, put Mads Mikkelsen in there.
Yeah,
but he does a good job.
He has a very intimidating look about him.
He does.
He was in the film Valhalla Rising, which was a very odd movie. Very little dialogue in it, and he plays a kind of Viking warrior. But yeah, he just has a look about him that's kind of quite terrifying. Like, you wouldn't want to come up against him, that's the thing. Again, I suppose it's because his big breakout role was Casino Royale. Yeah. So probably everyone's somewhat pigeonholed him as like the evil guy.
But again, I don't really feel like he was kind of threatening on you, but I feel like he could have done more with him. I don't know. Yeah. I'm nitpicking, but anyway.
Again, it was like, that's what I mean about the script being workmanlike, because his character was a former pupil of the Ancient One. So it's like the former pupil turning against the master, which we've seen in a major sci-fi saga, which shouldn't be named. But yeah, that's the kind of common thing in stories. It'd be like, oh, the former pupil turned against the master, and now you have a new pupil who's going to fight the old pupil.
But it works so well. Yeah, it makes sense. It's an introductory story of Doctor Strange. It makes sense why they would do that.
I suppose, but like you say, it's just such an obvious villain.
I'm just saying they could have just done more with him. He didn't have a lot, and he was just turned up occasionally and killed somebody and tried to bring down the world. But
yeah, I mean, his plan seemed kind of senseless.
No, I got his plan. He's trying to bring in Dormammu and it's going to destroy the world.
Oh, no, I got his plan, but it seemed like he wasn't intelligent enough to realise that wasn't a good thing. It's like, you get it a lot of times, like they'd be like, oh, I'll help the ultimate evil.
But he'd been corrupted by the ultimate evil because he felt like, because he'd been denied seeing that book. Yeah. And he never read so much into it, he just stole the page that he wanted.
The big problem I had with the whole Dormammu thing, it was like too big too soon, I think. Because this was like the ultimate evil in the galaxy. It's like, why not start with a kind of more...
Well, it's not like they've complete. No, I liked it. I liked the Dormammu thing. I'm not hating on the Dormammu thing because like they did something different at the end. It wasn't like a massive battle.
I suppose, but where do you go from there?
Well, you've got the other guy that's obviously going to turn against them at the end of the movie.
But yeah, they set up a sequel with like a new villain set up. But he's a lesser villain than Dormammu. Like, you've pretty much done your like your biggest. It's like when you start a Batman franchise, you don't start with the Joker because that's your biggest draw. Like you don't start with their most famous enemy.
There's loads more from to battle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like he's just.
I suppose so.
He's just got rid of Dormammu. It's not like he's defeated him. He's just stopped him taking over the world at that moment.
Yeah, I hope in future films they do kind of a more interesting villain, or a more interesting story maybe. And
oh God, you don't like it.
Well,
let's get back to that later. Benedict, we've not even done the cast yet. Benedict Wong, who was really the saving grace in the movie.
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
Who played a character called Wong.
Yeah.
Just Wong.
Just Wong.
Yeah, he was really good. The only other thing that we know him from is 15 Stories High.
15 Stories High, which is a
British
that I love and you hate.
Yeah, it was a British sitcom. Not that famous.
No.
It's a very weird sitcom. It's one that's like not typical.
No, you can Google it if you like this. If you want to see more Wong.
Yeah, but yeah, he was kind of unrecognisable. He doesn't look like he looked in sitcom because that was a long time ago. That was a very early role. It must have been for him.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he was the kind of comic relief in the movie, and I thought he did a great job.
Yeah,
and he was a likable character, even though he wasn't really in it very much. But every time you saw him, you were like, oh.
Yeah, it was always good for him.
He was really cool. So that's the kind of the main cast. There's some secondary characters, like other doctors and things. But yeah, in terms of the cast, I thought it was really good, and they got some really fantastic. Like all of those actors we've mentioned are pretty big names, and they're all really good. Yeah. So like whenever they had scenes together, you could see like their acting was fantastic. But yeah, like we said, in terms of the story, it's a fairly basic origin story, but with some exceptions, like with some twists that made it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think like it was an origin story, but it had enough difference in it, it had enough uniqueness, and the way the visuals, and even like the final battle, like done in a different way. It wasn't just like there's going to be a massive battle at the end. Oh, he's going to defeat them. He did it in a different way.
I did like the final battle. The reason I liked it, spoilers again, was because they defeated the villain in an intelligent way, using something that had been set up earlier. This was the thing. Like again, when I say like competent screenwriting, it was set up earlier. There was even a part in the film where they set up like a joke about Wi-Fi, and then later he's using the internet. He's using the email Wi-Fi. So as a writer, it's like, yeah, they've obviously thought carefully. Like, okay, this is going to be the end, so we need to set up this particular mechanic. So it's not going to come as a surprise when you see it later. Like everything was set up and everything linked back and made sense about why they'd written it in. Even short like lines at the beginning where they'd make jokes or references, and then it'll come back later, and you think, oh. And one of my favourite bits, which I was like, oh, that's quite. It's not that clever, but it was quite nice. The bit because there's a bit when he looks at a ton of watches at the beginning, and the whole thing about the film is time. So he looks at the watch, and then at the end he's looking at the broken watch, and it's like, oh, time. Like that was the whole theme of the film. So I kind of like that. In a lot of superhero things, it's just like, here are our characters, here are our villains. Let's throw them together. There's no like theme there or no overriding thing. It's just spectacle. Whereas this felt like, oh, they actually had an idea for the theme of it.
So that's good and bad then.
So yeah, good points. I don't think we've touched on it a little bit, but the special effects I thought were really good.
The visuals were really impressive.
The one thing I worried about was from the trailers that it was just going to be like CG everywhere. Yeah. And the one thing I didn't like, I'll just put it in here, was like when they're battling and they summon like CG circles. It was a little bit like video gamey. I had the same problem with Warcraft. It's like looks like a video game, which that's based on a video game. But in terms of like the visual effects, I know a lot of people were really excited to see the artworks from the comics brought to life. Like some of the scenes that I've seen comic book pages, and it's pretty much like shown up on the screen, like when he's shooting through universes and this kind of thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
so
that was a big plus.
The CG I really liked. This thing's just up my street anyway because I like martial arts and mysticism. So the plot was kind of, I enjoyed that anyway. Yeah. If you're into that kind of Eastern philosophy, I think you'll really get a kick out of this. And chakras, the mystic energy.
Yeah. No,
acupuncture.
Yeah, even acupuncture's mentioned during it. No, I thought it was really good. It was just different enough for an origin story to make it more interesting for me than I thought it was going to be. I was a bit, because again we're kind of overloaded with superhero movies all the time. It's like an oversaturation, which everybody always talks about. But this was different enough for it to be worth going to see.
But do you think when you see the sequel, because that's not going to have the surprise factor of something new?
No, I'd still go and see it because Doctor Strange was well enough done.
That's what worries me about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and the sequel to this is like, oh, maybe the success of them was because you'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
But when you go see the second one, it's kind of, oh, but I've already seen this in the first one.
I really like Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd say this is a good movie. It isn't as good as Guardians of the Galaxy or Captain America: Winter Soldier, which are two of the best Marvel movies for me.
I haven't seen Winter Soldier.
Oh yeah,
I did like Guardians of the Galaxy though.
Yeah, but those are two that I wouldn't put them up there with those two. But I think Doctor Strange is worth going to see.
Yeah, I mean Doctor Strange, like it does stick pretty close to the other Marvel movies. Like Guardians of the Galaxy feels like they went really on the comedy side of it, and almost like not self-parody, but very tongue-in-cheek, I would say. Yeah. Whereas this is less so. It's less like laughing. They take it quite seriously.
I think
even with jokes.
Yeah, I think it's quite a funny script. Like you're saying, it's a well-worked script, well-written script and stuff. I think there's a lot of humour in it.
Oh yeah, like a funny script, but like essentially they were taking it seriously. Whereas I felt like with Guardians of the Galaxy, like they realised it was kind of a funny thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm probably not getting that across very well. Negative points about the film. I don't really know. I would say like the CG, like maybe they could have done less CG. I don't know how you would have done practical effects.
You're not. You can't say that.
No, I know you can't.
You can't fall through dimensions.
I know you can't do that part with practical effects. The dimension stuff, and when they're folding cities, no problem doing that with CG because there's no way to do it. But in terms of like fight sequences, I would have liked to see more of there was some good choreography. I would like to see more of like the martial arts as like physical like martial arts fighting rather than just summoning up like CG weapons and sparks and things flying off them.
No, I thought it was pretty cool. Even like out of body stuff they did too. That was pretty interesting. I don't think I've ever seen an out of body battle.
Yeah, that was quite different. That was quite interesting. But that's the thing about this film, because of the setup, and it's all about mysticism and swapping dimensions and the astral plane. It allows for some really interesting visuals and really interesting ideas.
That's why I think it's worth going to see.
The final scene as well, I really liked. All about time manipulation. Yeah. So going backwards and stopping time and forwards in time. I kind of like that. But I like that in any film. It's like the Quicksilver parts in X-Men. They're always the best parts, or the parts that people really like.
We can go and see a completely normal movie and you think that's what's going on. You think it's all a dream.
Yeah. I'm watching every film at half speed. Just going, just play the tape backwards when I go in to watch it.
So I would totally recommend Doctor Strange because it's different enough and it's cool visually and it's not like fantastic. I'm not like.
It's a solid popcorn movie, and if you're into the character and mysticism and the kind of themes of the film, you'll really enjoy it. If you're not, it is like a solid movie. There's nothing. I would say there's nothing in the movie that would disappoint you. Yeah. But then there might not be anything.
But there's not enough moments that you're like, wow, that isn't the visuals. The visuals are very like, oh, that's really impressive. But like. Story-wise, you're not like,
yeah,
it's interesting though, and it's enjoyable. I was very entertained when I left.
It was fairly well paced. Like it doesn't lag too much. Like every so often you'll get another kind of going through the universe or out-of-body experience. So they're always kind of drawing you back, or with a joke or something.
Yeah,
It never goes too long without something funny. or interesting happening to joy picking. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be back with something new eventually.